My name is David Daniel Bolt, and these are the headlines for Wednesday, the 11th of February, 2009. Bushfire death toll could hit 300 and 80 are still missing. A sea kitten attack in Sydney Harbour leaves a diver critical. A toddler dies after being run over in a driveway. Stay or go safety message here to stay, says Brumby. That goes really well with the PM's message. The PM is sort of saying, "It's mass murder!" in his attempt not to panic the Australian population, whereas Brumby is much more ambivalent. Stay or go. Croatian cops are linked to the Lapthorne case. 3 escape as train crashes into car. They escaped probably because they were Sydney people and they know how dangerous trains can be. Aussies donate $30 million to bushfire victims. US Senate passes Obama stimulus plan. Oh, and Obama called Rudd the other day. Isn't that wonderful? Wind aids fire threat to Ye Marindindi. Stimulus stalemate as Senate inquiry handed down. And in comments, who's to blame for the Victorian bushfires? There's been an awful lot of finger pointing going on in the wake of the horrific Victorian bushfires. But who's really to blame? Asks Tim Bernero. Oh, Tim, what wonderful question. When everybody else is trying to put out the fires and try and help those people who are in need, you're asking who is really to blame. Well, luckily we've got people like Alan Jones to help us out with that. Why green policy is responsible for the bushfires. Liberal MP Tuckey is right. It is the Greens' push for untouched national parks that is to blame for Victorian bushfires, according to Alan Jones. From Tim Blair, we've got the article Voices Needed. Now, I posted an article Voices Needed from Tim Blair just the other day, but this has got an update. It's on. A Warminist swarm commences at the ABC Crikey and the Age, where Freya Matthews, a research fellow in the philosophy department at La Trobe University, if you don't mind, writes, "It is only a couple of years since scientists first told us we could expect a whole new order of fires in southeastern Australia, fires of such ferocity they would simply engulf the towns in their path. And here they are. Congratulations, geniuses. You've successfully predicted bushfires in Australia during the Australian bushfire season. These fires are simply the result of the new conditions that climate change has introduced here. Raised temperatures giving us hotter days than we have ever experienced before, combined with lower rainfall giving us a drier landscape. Let's stop using the word drought with its implication that dry weather is the exception. The desiccation of landscape here is the new reality. It's our new climate." Freya has evidently appointed herself Australia's official climate announcer. But can we adapt to it if it gets worse? It was only by chance that a cool change came through on Saturday. What if the pattern of the heat wave that occurred in last week of January had been repeated? If instead of the cool change on Saturday evening, we had 3 or 4 days above 40-degree temperatures, how much of our state, how many of our towns and outer suburbs could have been engulfed? Note that cooler weather arrives merely by chance, yet hot weather is pure human-caused evil warming. The Prime Minister weeps on television at the tragedy of Saturday's events. He looks around uncomprehendingly, unable to find the words, unable to find meaning. But there are words. There is meaning. That is climate change. Rudd was responding to news of hundreds of Australian deaths. Freya is a disgrace. Happily, The Age also runs a sensible piece by Frank Campbell, who actually seems not to be insane. Contrary to current hyperbole, Black Saturday was not the worst fire day ever. Ash Wednesday's wind speed ranged from 70 to 120 kilometers an hour. A savage southwest front led to most of the deaths and property loss, whereas Saturday had a modest wind change. Nor was the area burned in the latest fires exceptional. About 300,000 hectares is the likely total, compared with 1.5 million on Black Friday in 1939, several million on Black Thursday, 1851, 260,000 on Red Tuesday, 1898, and 230,000 on Ash Wednesday. Note that the days of the week have been mostly used up already. Every 10 or 20 years there is a bushfire disaster. This isn't going to change. Southeastern Australia is perhaps the worst fire vortex in the world. It would be evidence of change if the place didn't burn. There's a reason why we call it bushfire season, and all those firefighters and fire trucks aren't there by accident. And from Andrew Bolt, too much, too fast, too wasted. Professor Milind Sathi, a former central banker, is right about Kevin Rudd's $42 billion stimulus package. So why has the Australian government opted to go for such an extravagant spending spree? Why could it not pace itself, spending in 2 tranches of $20 billion each? This would have given it a time to review the measures being taken in China and other countries and fine-tune the next stimulus. The hard lessons we forgot. 200 Victorians cannot have died without mistakes being made and lessons forgotten. I'm in no mood for blame-throwing. The grief in this state is too great, the need for help too pressing, and there is much about these fires and their victims we do not yet know. But already I fear we will not really absorb some of the lessons we must learn to save ourselves from yet another such catastrophe. I couldn't give food, too much had been donated already. I was turned away from the blood bank, the queues are so long I was told to come back next week. I could only give money, and tens of thousands of you have done that too. What an avalanche of help. Have your fellow Victorians ever shown themselves to be so good? Our pain is terrible, the loss immense, but this much we know to our consolation. A fire can destroy our towns, but not our community. In fact, never have I seen so many people so desperately eager to lend a hand. My God, but we are strong. The official death toll in the fires is now 181, but no one believes we've yet heard the worst of the news. Police now fear that as many as 300 may have died in the bushfires. Survivors of the fires can get government help here. The tidal wave of help for the victims has been overwhelming. From last night's one-day game between Australia and New Zealand, just as an example, the Commonwealth Bank Series bushfire appeal had raised more than $6 million for people affected by the natural disaster. Biden is the real Palin. We warned that the vice presidential nominee was an embarrassment, someone not fit for high office, unqualified, a joke. No, not Sarah Palin, but Joe Biden. Here's his take on his boss's stimulus package. If we do everything right, if we do it with absolute certainty, if we stand up there and we really make the tough decisions, there's still a 30% chance we're going to get it wrong. And here's Barack Obama treating Biden as the clown that Palin isn't. Mr. Obama laughs. You know, I don't remember exactly what Joe was referring to, not surprisingly, but let me try this out. I think what Joe may have been suggesting, although I wouldn't put I would ascribe any numerical percentage to any of this, is that given the magnitude of the challenges that we have, any single thing that we do is going to be part of the solution, not all of the solution. So I don't know whether Joe was referring to that, but I use that as a launching point to make a general point about these issues. Toby Harnden was at Obama's press conference and concludes, Obama came close to conceding that Biden was indeed a joke. Of course, Biden wasn't saying anything of the sort. Obama knew that, and the rest of us did too. Could this save lives next time? Is it now time to consider not only fire-safe shelters in each bush town, but an electronic warning system for each home? You'll have to read the links to follow that. Defend the right, denounce the message. I don't regret having fought to defend this guy's right to speak, but by God, I wish he wouldn't abuse it so. The catch, the fire ministries has tried to blame the bushfires disaster on laws decriminalizing abortion in Victoria. The evangelical church's leader, Pastor Danny Nalaya, claimed he had a dream about raging fires on October the 21st last year and said that he woke with a flash from the Spirit of God that his conditional protection has been removed from the nation of Australia, in particular Victoria, for approving the slaughter of innocent children in the womb, which makes Nalaya the Hilali of Pentecostal faith. Crowing over the flames, the Australian starts a counterattack on global warming opportunists now exploiting the horrific fires. I'm not sure the time is yet right to join the debate, despite the eagerness of the 7:30 report and Lateline yesterday to blame global warming or raise its spectre. Surely this is the time to focus on how to help, how to console, and how to prevent yet more such suffering as we've seen. Your advice would be useful. And no scorn for this scone. Imagine the fun if this bumped head had been Bush's. Was Bush ever allowed to get away with such a single misstep? And I've got the clip there for you to see if you click on the link.